I'm gonna call meeting order.
Right. 6:01, calling Fredonia Park and Recreation Committee meeting to order. First thing on is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Perfect.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item on the agenda is public comments.
See any public?
And there is no public, so. Next item, approve minutes of the April 7th, 2025 Parks and Recreation Committee meeting.
Did those come through? Were those sent out?
Let's see, documents of this.
I feel like,
that it might have been left on the previous committee, which barely exists to put that together.
oops.
So you can just move past it if there's no minutes, it's whatever.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, we don't have any.
not having any minutes, I'd say that we can move on.
All right. Next items for action and or discussion. Continued planning of the Fun Before the Fourth event.
All right, well, if you don't mind, I will take this.
Take it away.
Take this on, okay. So I guess a couple of things were coming up really quickly. If you all aren't familiar, I'm the designated Parks and Rec person, but also kind of the liaison between the events planning committee that we have. So I'm here tonight to kind of let you guys know what's going on with the Fun Before the Fourth event. I mean, I'll be here for all Parks committee meetings, but tell you what's going on with the Fun Before the Fourth event. And then also, we have a specific request that we are going to have of the village. So from that committee. So June 28th, for those that don't know, we have the Fun Before the Fourth, which is an event that we plan every single year. Since I started it back up in 2021 or something like that, 2020. 21, yeah, COVID, right? So anyway, we have a lot of cool things planned. We've got a parade going on. We've got obviously food. We've got food trucks that are going to be coming later on in the evening, which will be a lot of fun. We've got bounce houses. I'm missing things for sure. We've got dunk tank, live bands. There's a cornhole tournament that's taking place that the Lions are putting on, so that'll be fun. And I don't know if we've got any of the banners here, or any of the posters or anything.
I have 3 or 4 left in the car that can go up around. She got everywhere around like Port Washington and like
Oh, good.
between Port Washington and Random Lake, anyone who would put them up. But I think Belgium, she was able to get one up in maybe Belgium.
Cool.
But Port Washington was mainly where she hit, and they were very open to putting those up, and so that'll get a lot of traffic, at least in downtown Port.
Yeah, for sure. So I was just gonna say, there's a whole list of what's going on there. I was gonna try to pull up the event, but I can't get Facebook working on my computer, so I won't do that. Anyway, so with all of that though, is every year the village of Fredonia budgets a certain amount of money to kind of help out with that. Like, it's kind of like I don't want to say seed money, but it's more or less like, hey, we're throwing an event in the village, and so the village budgets X amount of dollars per year to try to put towards that to help those things keep going. Which has been great because, you know, these events are put on by sponsors, on all nonprofits. So any of the stuff that happens is nobody gets paid or anything like that, which is kind of neat. So this year, so far, with the expenses that we have, and Chris, you can touch on this a little bit more too, as to how this would all go around. The expenses that we have for this year so far are $27,769.08. From that, we've got, you know, a decent amount of fundraising that's happened, and we have some other things that are going to happen throughout the event to keep raising money for that. For instance, the dunk tank last year was a big donation tool, right? Where we had, I think it was $900 we made on the dunk tank alone, up above and beyond what it cost us. So we would have more donated money or whatever coming in through there. Also, Friends of Fredonia is looking into, they're doing beer sales, so they're gonna kind of get what that looks like at the end of the night, and what they have as far as revenues go. They'll donate some back. The fire department has said that they're gonna donate at least $200 of their proceeds to us, which is cool, from what they make, and then all the food trucks as well have said that they'll donate a portion of proceeds. But where that leaves us is, so far where we stand today, we have a deficit of $15,956.08. There are funds that have come in for other events that I know that we've talked about being able to move around, and maybe this is where I'll kind of transition to Chris, and then ultimately I'll go on and ask for a specific donation amount from the village. That'll get worked out in the end. So maybe I'll pass this off to you right now.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Do we have someone who could do a 50-50 raffle?
We are working on it.
Okay,
So the Friends of Fredonia, they're a relatively new nonprofit organization. So they did apply for their 50-50 raffle
but are waiting.
license,
I'm
but they're
sure.
still waiting to hear back, and that was almost 3 weeks ago, I want to say.
Okay.
If not them, then we do have some other groups that. have
That would
said
be able
we can-
to.
Yeah, we could
Okay.
use their license or whatever to try to raise a little bit of money,
I think that would bring in quite a bit of money. It
probably.
usually does.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
yeah, if you want
Sure.
to talk a little bit about different things.
Sure. So for those who don't know, the Friends of Fredonia was created 2 or 3 years ago now as to be the nonprofit wing of our events operations that we do. There's 2 reasons we do that. One is for the feel-good part. Typically, if I asked you for money and I said, don't worry, it's going to the government, you would say, it's okay, Chris. But if you're donating to a nonprofit, right, then it feels a little bit better. And 2, there's benefits of like tax write-offs and things like that that you can do through a nonprofit that you can't do when giving or working with a government. So that was the high-level reason why we kind of brainstormed this partnership. And then, as Dan knows, it's gone through a couple different iterations as the Friends group have gotten new members and kind of like filled out and learned what their role was. It started off as, okay, well, we're gonna help out with one event, or we'll raise money for this little thing, to now they really act as the go-through of all of our finances when it comes to events. So any expenses and profits that each of our individual events make, it goes through the Friends group with the hope and plan that it's gonna generate at least some income and then help to offset things from year to year to year. In government, that is called and I'm just gonna, of course, brain fart what the name is. But there's a name for that where it separates it from the government entity and allows, again, another entity to take that on. And so it takes that liability off the taxpayers, which at the end of the day is what we want to do. It doesn't mean we don't want to do really exciting events and then have fun things in Fredonia. It's just acknowledging that we have a lot of other priorities, roads and public safety and all that other stuff that tend to be higher priority than the events that we have too. So that being said, I just wanted to give you a summary of each of the events that we have going on and what the financials are kind of roughly looking like. And then that'll tie into what Dan was asking as well. So I'll start off with the music event. So the music event that we do is Tuesday Tunes. So that goes on 4 nights throughout the summer, as you all know, May, June, July, and August. For each of those, we fundraise well in advance to make sure we have $500 level sponsors of each of those nights. And then when we hire the bands, the goal is to make sure that collectively those bands don't cost any more than the $2,000 we're raising out of the $500 donors that we have. So to give you that perspective, we ended up raising, let me take out this number quick. We ended up raising $2,250 from donors who sponsored Tuesday Tunes, and the cost of the bands was $2,195. So already before the event even happens, we're already net positive for that event. So what that doesn't count though is revenues from drink sales. So we partner with Mobile to get drinks from them at a bulk rate. We make the purchase through the Friends group, and then we sell those obviously for a little bit more money, and we net a profit. And then we also collect donations at that event too. So overall, there's no way to lose money at that event. It's only we're going to make money each time. So to give you some perspective, on the May 27th that we just had, we netted about $400 in donations and drink sales. And it's probably going to cost us maybe $250 in how much we purchased. But again, those drinks also are probably gonna carry on to the next event because we didn't run out. So overall, we're gonna net revenues just within that, net profit just within Tuesday Tunes. Then we have the Mud Run. So the Mud Run, we charge a base rate fee. It's $30 right now and until our early registration ends, which got pushed to the end of June. And then it'll be $40 per kid as we get closer to the date, which is August 2nd. Those costs automatically cover everything that a kid gets. So it covers the free lunch, the t-shirt, the medals, the wristbands, and the bags that they get. And so again, this is an example level right up front. We know we're going to cover all of our expenses. And so any donations and donors that we get on top of that equals additional revenue. So we have Quantum Performance that have donated specifically to the Mud Run, and College State Bank that have done specifically to the Mud Run. And so again, any other sales that we make is going to generate revenues or profit for that one as well. And then the final small one is our movie night. We've been doing that kind of on and off at least once a year. We only have a $100 sponsor for the movie night. It really costs us nothing to do the movie night. We have our own projector, and we tend to just sell whatever leftover concessions we have from the other events at this one to make it a wash. And so we tend to get a little bit of income there too. So I say all that to say that each of those three events will make a profit that we can then use, I should say, that the Friends group can then use to help offset the expenses that are going on at Fun Before the Fourth. And that's in addition to, you know, the Fredonia Fire Department ends up giving more if we make more money in drink sales and things like that. So that the deficit that Dan's talking about right now seems to be coming from the fireworks. That's a big thing. It's a big part of our costs. I'm having it 12,000. Is that the number you got?
12,000.
And so we budget 15,000. This year we budgeted 15,000 for specifically a village contribution towards events. So our idea is we would, in a sense, upfront the Village of or the Friends of Fredonia group the $15K to cover whatever the deficit might be, with a donation letter, because they're a nonprofit separate from us. It would come with a donation letter that would say, all right, we are going to be giving you up to $15,000 to cover whatever your deficit is for this event, the difference of which we expect back, right? And so again, to Dan's point, it'll be less than 15,000. I can't imagine it would be
Right.
Once all those expenses are in. So that's my long-winded summary, and we can go from there.
Right. So, yeah, and again, I mean, those funds in the past have been put in the budget to help for, you know, these events happen, right? I think it was last year we ended up having, it was almost the same amount, something like that. This year, we took a step forward. The reason that we have more expenses is because we took a step forward and really wanted to bring some well-known bands here, in the hope that you get more people, then you get more beer sales, and you get, you know, other things like that going on within the village here. So we've seen the performance from our Tuesday Tunes. We've seen how that's gone, and I guess so when it comes down to it, the events planning committee, to Chris's point, is going to be asking for a $15,000 donation upfront, which matches right what the village has budgeted in their thing, or in their budget for this, with the expectation that anything that would be less than that, or should be raised more money than that, comes right back to the village. So that's kind of what, you know, the breakdown is for us as an events planning committee, and for me coming to the events planning committee, or to the Parks and Rec committee from the events planning committee.
How much did the village end up giving last year?
That's a good question.
I can find it.
So you guys don't have like a spreadsheet of like all the recent years of?
No, we do. I'm just not the one that normally takes care of all that. We had another person.
And this arrangement's new, I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest. But I can get that budget here.
I definitely think having a bigger band and more well-known band will bring in a lot more. It's getting more attention, I think.
Well, and you know, you look at the people that are interested, just the followers of the band, something from 400 or 500, something on there, you know,
That's, you know, you have like, I think Rebel Grace is one of them.
Rebel Graces.
Like, that's the big thing is, yeah, you advertise it on the Funds page, but Rebel Grace is advertising it on their website and their Facebook page that they're gonna be playing
Right.
here on that night, so then it draws in Rebel Race fans to the area as well.
So last year, we actually had 30,000 budgeted for events.
Mhm.
And we spent like 33, a little over that. Granted, that was a different arrangement. We weren't working as closely with the Friends group last year as we are this year. So we had to cover more
Right.
expenses.
So
So this group would just be making a recommendation to the village board.
one way or another. Questions does anybody have about that of me?
Everything's already planned, like you already invited all the bands and everything, like everything's basically set.
Correct, yeah.
Gotcha.
Contracts are signed and.
Yep, and again, I mean, I know the number looks kind of scary at the moment and everything like that, but again, I mean, in. You know, we have nothing contributed or saying that we're, the Friends of Veroni has not contributed or said they're gonna contribute anything to drinks, right? So they will be, but they just don't know what they're gonna make type thing. And if it's anything like last year, I think it was like $1,500 or something like that came back, which, you know, helps there, plus the other things too. But again, the food trucks, they're all gonna make a donation as well. So I do see this number coming down quite a bit to Chris's point. Also with the increased revenue from the other events. That we get money from.
Do you think they're a good idea too, because based off how much they make, like a minimum ask would be a good idea, so that you can kind of have a rough idea of like bare minimum what you can expect as a possible return per se.
A little bit more specific.
Like if they say, hey, we're gonna donate 10% of our proceeds. Well, could we try to put a floor, like a minimum on that, so we know we are guaranteed
Yeah.
this much, even if, so let's say they don't make as much and they end up. You know, it's more than 10% what they originally were planning on, but it's that minimum that we're trying to hit. Is that something we could try to talk to them about, negotiate, just so there's some guaranteed like backing there?
So, yes, so originally we were going to everybody with a percentage and, we got a little bit of pushback from that because specifically because some of the people that are gonna do it are saying, well, if I'm only gonna sell make $200, I'm gonna give you $100 worth of it or whatever, you know what I mean? Whereas again, if you know, if they make 1,000 or something like that, do you get what I'm saying? That they were hesitant to do that, but yes, we talked about it quite a bit actually with all the food trucks. So,
It's pretty common with food truck. I mean, we have food trucks that come to my employer quite often, and the food trucks like require like, okay, I have to make a minimum of this, or your employee, like your company pays
right,
what I don't make. And so sometimes all of a sudden they'll come and they're like, it was a bad day and they only made $200 and they were supposed to make 250, so our employer forks up the $50 to offset that
Yeah.
difference. It's hard to do that with a food truck.
well, and I would say here, right, we're not being charged to have them there. They all want to come, which is great. Cause I know that happens a lot, right? Where it's like, hey, I've got to make a minimum of this, otherwise it's not worth it. We had that happen one year, I think with Mr. Tony's. So, yeah, and again, we're still relatively new to this, right? So we're still trying and the friends group is still trying. Just kind of see where it runs from here, but. I, like I said, I am very confident that number will come down. So. But the ask again, you know, I had talked to Chris earlier today. We can't just say, okay, bands play, and then we'll pay you, but oh, we don't have any money. Right, so there's that deficit there up front. So if we say, okay, we have a $15,000 deficit or fireworks too, right? They're gonna come, they're gonna expect a check, right? They're not gonna just say, okay, you can pay us later for it. So that's where we need the funds almost up front, you know, and then we kind of pay back, so.
Is there any chance that cause I think you said it's 15,000.
956.
Is there somewhere else that 956 can come from right now? So the village is only, cause I know you said you set aside 15,000 for this event.
Yep.
Which, I mean, if we've set aside that money for this event, I don't see a problem with it because, I mean, events like this is what attracts people to the village, like without events to, you know, bring people in, but.
Yeah, the answer is yes. I mean, because we have, as Chris was saying, we already have some funds from the Tuesday Tunes.
Okay.
We have a couple of other donations that have come in that we can kind of move around at this point to make sure that we have them on the front. I don't think I'm just speaking on that. So, no, I think that would be fine. With the expectation again that, you know, the 15,000 is coming from the village. However, at the end of the day, whatever we make above and beyond that will be reimbursed. You know, according to the Friends group, so I have to say, I'm not part of the Friends of Fredonia, I'm not part of that organization. So they would have to agree to that, but they've already said that, yeah.
There's like what, $12,000 worth of fireworks purchased? What was it the year before?
I think it was 11, something like that, costs just go up.
Yeah,
And actually, the thing that sucks about fireworks, 60% of that is insurance,
Mhm.
so. Yeah, fireworks are expensive. So. Whatever the pleasure of the committee is, this is not on the agenda for tonight. For the village board meeting tonight.
No, correct.
However, we do need to kind of decide what we're gonna do so that we can plan forward.
and so there's no, you're throwing it off the table, you don't want to ask for like a minimum donation versus like just hopes and dreams, like we'll just see what happens kind of thing. That's not, is that off the table or?
For the food trucks and things?
Yeah, food trucks and.
Yeah, we're, as we have them coming, we are asking for a donation from all of them, but I don't think we can just say a specific amount. I just don't. I know that we asked of that of two, and they said, well, we can't do that because we don't know what we're gonna make. Things. But all of them have agreed to donate something. But I see what you're getting at, and yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Cause it doesn't have to be much, I feel like it, you know, at least something, cause if, and also. I'm sure you're doing it on the honor system, but how are you gonna? Check, yeah, how are you gonna know what they did or didn't make
Yeah, it's on the honor system.
honor system?
Mhm.
So I feel like even if you set the bar really low, like, hey, bare minimum. You know, $150 or something, something small, just so that you have a floor that you can expect. Versus again, hopes and dreams and relying on honor system when not everybody is truthful, so.
And I think that, you know, so the fire department, for instance, is giving us a $200 donation, the association is, right? And then they've said that. Depending on what they make for food, they'll do more, and I just don't have the numbers in front of me, who said what? But I know Tiffany has had those conversations with those food trucks, with the expectation that something gets donated. And she very well may have a flat donation from them, I just don't know that information about it.
I think with food trucks, you run the risk of scaring them away when you ask them for a donation. You just, I mean, the fact that they're going to already come for free. I think that that's a start, and if they're willing to donate, great, but in reality, we're not putting up any of the cost up front for. Their food, we're not putting up any cost to maintain their trucks, or they're just coming and they're gonna try to make whatever they can make as their own companies.
We've got Kona Ice coming, which is gonna be great, or snow cones and things, that's gonna be awesome. We've got that's more like a snacky food truck type thing, so think about French fries and cheese curds and stuff like that later on in the night. And some bar food type thing, so I think it'll go over.
Is it too late to inquire with other companies as well, with the upfront approach of like, hey, just a minimum flat fee for being able to like to have that, you know, the ability to participate and serve there? Is that something that you still have time to ask other companies about?
I would say probably not asking other companies about, because we've kind of exhausted our list. There happen to be two really big events going on the same weekend, the Strawberry Fest.
Oh,
And then-
yeah.
And then Bird Fest up in Plymouth, so we have kind of the people that we can get.
And
For
then
the ser-
space.
Yeah.
You
and then
already have
space.
so much space.
I wanna say we have 4 or 5 of them coming, so I mean, which is a lot, actually, for that. But no, it's probably not too late, and I'll have that conversation as well, to just guarantee.
So we just say like, this is
Some
something we can,
recommendation.
or make a recommendation to bring this to the village board? Or the $15,000 donation?
Great. And you would ask for a second?
Can I have a second on that, please?
I'm just gonna throw this out here. I feel very weird asking for a second because I'm with the request, so. But I will if I need to.
Anybody in the committee can make?
Well, I can make a
Yeah,
second?
sure.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay.
We're good.
Call a question?
The what?
Call for
Oh,
vote, yep. All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Beautiful.
Motion carries. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
And ultimately, again, the entire village board will decide on whether or not they want to do that, so.
Or how much they will
Yeah, correct.
decide that they will. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, next.
And next is continued review of the parks and open space plan.
All right. Dan remembers this very well. Natalie probably remembers this a little bit, and you two have no clue what we're talking about, and that's okay. So the Parks and Open Space Plan is a plan that we're not required to have, but it's generally good to have because it allows us to apply for grants through state and federal government related to parks and recreational and open spaces. And so this plan was first created in 2011 through an engineering firm with the village and staff and residents getting involved and deciding just overall, what do we want to see the future of our park system looking like? That it was updated again in 2019, I believe it was, through in partnership with the county. And then we tried to apply for a grant last year. And in doing that, we realized, oh, we're out of compliance because you're supposed to update this every 5 years. So that's what started us down this path of taking this existing document, which started off as like 150 pages, and now it's down to 92 because it doesn't need to be that long, and updating it to what is realistic for us to do over the next 5 years. So with that, we did a community survey. Some of you might have already filled that out. It went out to the community in various ways. We received about 100 responses overall, which is very, very good because the last survey that they did back in 2019 had like 7 or 9
I think
responses.
that's 12.
12, there you go.
It's very
So a little bit better. And this committee's been doing is we really started at page 1, and I've just started asking questions about, well, should we keep this in? Do you think this is still a priority? And we've been kind of changing as we go. And so we're picking this back up. We've been going park by park to evaluate what we'd like to see. And so if it's okay with you, Madam Chair, I'll just pick up where we were.
Yes.
With, I think, Trustee Searing's favorite park, and that's Children's Park. That's the one that we were on. So the way that each of these parks are described is it shows an acreage, it shows general parcel information, it shows what are the existing features, and then it's a list of park improvement recommendations. So what I think we need to make sure we're doing is that it seemed like in past plans, they made this more of a wish list, right? Of like, oh, we'd love to see all these crazy, awesome things here. We also need to be realistic of what we can afford and actually do at these parks in the next 5 years, because why have a plan in place if we can't actually accomplish some of these things, right? And that's where, and Dan will remember that when we were going through this last time, we X'd out and cut out a lot of stuff just because it didn't seem realistic. One of them was like buying up a bunch of property to create an interurban trail and you know, like you guys certainly could say, well, Chris, we'd love to see a swimming pool here. And I can tell you, well, that's not realistic, but you could stick a swimming pool in this plan if you want, but it's probably not going to happen, right? So on that note, we are on Children's Park. For those who don't know, it is about the size of a residential lot. It's in the, what is that subdivision called? The Forest Glen neighborhood over there.
It's over there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
I
Yep.
have pictures of it.
It's kind of like for a guy on duties, it's a self-based.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't need to show pictures.
that was-
We're good.
Yeah, so all that's currently there right now is just a play structure and a swing set. It has a bench, it has a park ID sign that like is somewhat handmade.
Like that about it.
Yep,
Because it's a children's park, so I think that that's very fitting.
And it also has a trash receptacle, which I'm glad they added that on. So let me read what currently is listed here as improvements, and then you tell me if you want to keep it or not. First is play equipment should be scheduled for replacement as components are worn with rough wood, splinters, missing connectors, and broken elements. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Every 5 years, you're saying inspection replacement, or what is this?
Nope, this is just in the next 5 years, we should look at
We should.
replacing at least some pieces of this equipment that's falling apart.
And I'll quickly step in and say too, in the past, what we've done is as a committee, every year we've gone around to all the parks and we've taken a look at things and said, well, this looks like crap, or, you know, it's still in really good shape. So that'd be a good field trip to have on another parks meeting here this summer too.
Yep. And that
Yeah,
ties into
play in the
that,
summer.
the final item we're talking about. Let's see, provide ADA accessibility improvements such as curb cuts, paved access to the playground and seating areas, and a new ADA accessible play equipment. Is that something that's realistic for
Doesn't
children?
sound very necessary.
Oh,
It sounds great, but
yeah.
it does not, I don't think it sounds feasible for that area. That's my,
Any other thoughts?
I mean, as much as we can do to make it accessible, right, like a curb cut, we could probably figure out. That's not that hard to do, but if we're talking about replacing something, you know, all of the playground equipment to make it look like Possibilities Playground there or something, that's not gonna happen.
Well, that,
you know?
yeah, that would be too.
So maybe just say improvements such as curb cuts and paved access to the playground. So at least a path to get to the playground, right?
I would say
That's-
A swing set, I can't remember.
Yeah, that swing set.
I would say curb cut's simple and realistic, but a whole paved path that's way too expensive.
I agree.
Yep. Great.
Is that a sand base there?
Yes, is it? We've been slowly migrating everything to mulch, so it just, we might not be there yet because it's just not a big park, but is it still sand?
Those at the end.
Okay.
Also grass.
Consult.
Don't.
Next is consult with neighboring properties to create a landscape buffer and or fencing to define the boundaries and distinguish public and private property.
Necessary.
You don't want a fence there?
I think most of the neighboring properties are probably not worried about where the. As long as like, if they do make playground replacements, they don't. You know, they know where the boundary lines are when we add equipment, but I really don't think most of the people.
Can you reread what
Yep.
the definition of the barrier was?
Yep, it says consult with neighboring properties to create a landscape buffer or fencing to define boundaries and distinguish between public and private property. And again, there's only two neighbors there. The one time I drove by and the neighbor was like sitting on her porch and then throwing the ball into the park where kids were playing. So it's like,
And I
they
would
like that
say,
connectivity.
I don't see why it'd be an issue around this.
Yeah,
I think I can throw a fence up too, just more maintenance costs.
correct.
I mean, if it's like
Keep
a
it
few
nice.
random fence posts every, I don't know, 10-15 feet to see like a clear indicator, it's a lot different than the whole.
Sounds good. Next is remove sand base around playground or replace with wood chips. I can tell you that's happening anyway. Plant shade trees around play structures and seating areas to facilitate enjoyment and use.
I mean, I think there are shade trees that are planted up there. Not wrong. Not wrong.
But that's an ask. They want us to plant
I
shade.
think that park is pretty shady anyway, with the trees that separate the industrial park and. Yeah. around these words.
Yeah.
Well shaded
Yes.
from the trees that are between the industrial park and the K park. I could be wrong.
What about seating areas?
Are there a bunch?
There's one bench there.
So there's enough seating areas? You're
I
good?
think for the amount of use of the playground, that's probably.
And the bench is always open when I take my kids up there.
Can I ask a question about seating? Do we have any spare benches anywhere in storage or anything?
We don't have spare benches,
Nothing.
and in fact, we've been buying up additional, not benches per se, but like
Picnic tables?
tables, picnic tables, just because we need them at more parks, like our bigger parks. But all of them are movable, so like when we do events at Fireman's Park, we'll grab all of our picnic tables and we'll bring them over there. So like I don't know, if a neighborhood event happened at this park, right, we technically have the resources to help do that. But for the average everyday user, if you feel like only one bench is fine, then that's fine. Next is providing new playground signage. Ooh, a controversial thing. Should we keep the children's playground sign or make it uniform with all of our other signs?
Well, again, when I was on the board, I feel like we were moving towards making all the signage universal in the village, where we're not,
Yep.
so. I mean, again, the signs are not cheap, they're expensive,
Yeah,
so. But I think it would be good to, so you drive in the village, you immediately recognize, oh, this is a village owned property or whatever, you know.
Mhm.
Well, that makes sense because, you know, when people would look at it, yeah, they would understand it was a village park versus just somebody threw some playground equipment up.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree.
I don't think it's a priority though.
No, I mean, if the
So
sign's
like-
not failing or anything, then I don't know if it's an immediate priority, but I think the
Yeah.
next time the sign needs to be replaced, I feel like we can take some of that artwork that's on there
Okay,
and put it on a permanent sign.
oh, yeah, yeah,
That's my thought.
no, that, I like that idea. For sure.
Great. Okay. Next one is Fireman's Park. We'll get through that one and then we can jump to our final agenda item here. So we all know where Fireman's Park is. Existing features are a permanent seasonal restrooms and concession stand, one soccer field, one basketball court, one little league field with scoreboard. There's still scoreboard there? Okay.
And technically there is a soccer field there yet, but I thought that was gonna be moved up here.
No, there's still soccer field. Park sign, picnic area, play structure, and bleachers. All right, so they have. Oh, this is a lofty one. Create a fireman's memorial, including a water feature along Milwaukee Street and provide improved village standard park signage.
I wonder if that was even like before the addition to the firehouse, because there's no
Right.
base there.
Yeah. Okay,
Other than right where the sign is.
yeah. Right. Again, it talks about ADA accessibility for curb cuts, parking, and paved access to restrooms.
I think that's our.
We have that, yeah,
Because everything's fine.
yeah. Provide a landscape barrier along Meadowbrook Creek for safety and to serve as a barrier during organized athletic events.
Barrier, like,
Oh, just as a landscape barrier along the creek.
so imagine like big boulders and rocks lining, probably. Don't think it's a real safety issue.
I think the rocks would be more of a safety issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They tripped to playing soccer and smack, yeah.
I feel like, well, even with the bridge that magically appeared there a few years ago, I can't remember when that was, the new bridge.
Mhm.
But that's a good addition.
Yep.
So,
For those who don't know, that was created by Rick Raybuck, our former DPW crew member. We donated lumber, so we're very proud of him. Consult with neighboring properties to create a landscape buffer and or fencing to define boundaries and distinguish public and private property. So again, a fence around the park.
They really like the fences.
Yes.
Then I think it's working just fine.
probably not necessary.
There's smart container kids.
Yeah. All right, again, removing sand, replacing with wood chips.
Why are we
Repair,
Replacing with wood chips.
what's that?
Why are we replacing with wood chips?
It's just less mess.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to remulch every so many years, but sand probably doesn't go bad for way longer, correct?
It doesn't go bad, but it's harder to maintain. So to keep the sand in, weeds still grow through it. It's just more of a headache. But you're right, the mulch you'd have to replace every so often. If we really had the capital, we'd replace everything with that, what is that, rubber
Rubber
material?
mulch.
Yeah.
village mulches though, on a pretty regular basis.
Correct, that's, you got it. Yeah, we use our own mulch to,
I was gonna say at some point though, so like in the school did their backyard thing, they got donated, all that rubber mulch that was up there, that's all donated someplace, so. From time to time, those opportunities are available, and it's not a bad idea to keep our ears and eyes open for them.
Yep.
Our mulcher might get the shred tires and we could do a tire donation,
There you go.
shred some tires.
there you go.
Sure.
And actually, the town doesn't even, we don't want to accept tires up there, so maybe they should accept them for us, and then we'll bring them down here and chop them up. Get creative now. Next is repairing and maintaining damaged playground equipment. Assuming that still needs to be done there.
There's some need down there for that.
Yep. Planting shade trees again and additional seating.
I'm pretty sure there's plenty of trees there, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's some trees that were planted, but they get ripped on so much that it's like every year the trunk gets bigger and the canopy stays the same, which is kind of funny looking.
Yeah.
But,
And that's one of the areas that we've been adding the benches and stuff, so.
yeah. But yes, there are quite a few trees done at this point.
New playground signage,
Firemen.
environments. And then replace bridge, look at that.
Overnight.
Great job, Rick. Anything else that you guys want to see at Fireman's? And I should have asked that about Children's too, but anything you want to see at either of those two parks in the next 5 years?
Nothing else I can think of. Environments is the one we were gonna make kind of like the priority on parks, was it? Or-
Well, right, this year it's Marie Kraus is our priority.
But yes,
Yeah.
but I mean, the next park,
Okay.
how we can choose which one needs the.
I know we've talked in the past about, and I don't want to call it a bandstand, but some sort of thing like that to support live music. That's is going to be the place that we always keep doing that.
They made some improvements with electrical and
Yep.
outside
Yeah.
of their house. That was gonna be one of my things that I would say that I would like to have added there is more electrical different places, right? Like even if it's on the west side of the ball diamond or whatever, because we ran bounce houses over there last year, where we had all the generators going, it was super loud. So to be able to do something like that over there, lighting, we've talked about that too. I know that lights don't get used an awful lot, but even just to have some sort of overhead lighting for those events, if we're gonna have them.
Marie Kraus have bathrooms.
Yes.
I keep looking at the idea like, oh, expand, like create a bandstand somewhere and like do something, and I almost feel like Marie Kraus should kind of become the place that becomes the catch-all for like that big stuff, like a
Mhm.
concession stand and like pavilion and the bandstand, because it's where the splash pad's gonna be, they're gonna be paving down to there, like. And then, you have your live music and then kids can be out playing on the splash pad and like.
Mhm. Yeah. So no bandstand environments.
I would say no bandstand for.
Okay.
I don't think, because I don't think there's room. You put a bandstand
Yeah.
up and.
And then also like when you get the band out at Marie Kraus, and you might have less complaints from the neighbors with the live music and some people that live up on the. Back street that maybe aren't paying,
Good point. All right, well then I will pause here for this item, but then just be aware that our next Parks Committee meeting, we should probably maybe just set up a meeting just to do this so we can kind of like get through it. That's kind of a long, painful process, but then it'll be done and then we can have it updated.
They all being at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean. Baseball.
All right.
Looks like our next item is what?
Correspondence.
Nope, we're on
No?
C.
Where are we at? Discussion of 2025 park maintenance.
All right, so we had 35,000 total budget for parks maintenance this year. About 10,000 of it's been spent already, and I couldn't get Eric to download that report, so I knew what
How
it
much
was
is
spent on.
Sorry, I didn't catch
Yeah.
it.
35,000 is what we budgeted.
Yes.
10 has been spent already. And I don't have that detail of what it is. But there's 25,000 left, and I asked him just to compose a list of things that he's working on. Just so you guys are kind of kept up to date, and it ties in with the report that we're going through too. So one of the things he's doing is wood chips at Fireman's Park. So that is about 2,500 to add those. Next is we're completing our camera system at Marie Kraus. So that's about 7,200. For those who don't know, we've been adding cameras. Yes, we've been adding cameras around at different areas of the village for security. And with the new splash pad coming in, that was a concern that was tied there. Yes, Dan.
I just, like these things when I was president, I must have missed that.
That's a newer item. So with the new village president coming in, his concern was again, vandalism in that area, especially if we're going to have expanding it to the the pavilion there and everything else there. Since we're boring and doing the electrical. What?
Pavilion coming too?
Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff we're excited about.
Are these cameras like at discretion, just ongoing whenever, wherever, or is this like every time we want to make new ones, it has to be approved?
Say it again.
Is this just ongoing whenever, wherever, we're just gonna throw cameras up? Or is this like for each camera you put up has to be approved?
So we contracted out, we started the camera process 32 years ago, something like that, as a CIP item. And we've been branching out in this year's budget, we have CIP dollars for cameras as well. This is a branch out. This is separate because he's using parks money for this. But it could be a CIP thing. It doesn't matter. But the point is that we're just kind of adding and complementing our full system. But he has, they have 24 access to the cameras, both at the wastewater treatment plant and at the marshal's office. So if we see anything, right, then we're able to detect that. We have it recorded and we're good to go. I mean, think of like when the welcome sign got vandalized and we were all kicking ourselves, wishing that we had a camera pointing in that direction. And we didn't. So we just want to make sure that we're protected for things like that.
Okay.
Next is painting the Stony Creek Pavilion roof. That's a metal roof over there. It's about 2,000 to paint that. Continuing to get benches and tables for different areas. He's focusing on the disc golf course right now. That's about 6,000 for that. Fireman's Park, getting permanent garbage cans over there. That's 1,300. For those who don't know, we had donated dollars come in for Veterans Park to create a concrete barrier around the wood chips and gardening that's there. So we had to chip in a little bit of money in order to finish that project. So that's 1,500 there to complete that. And then finally is repainting lines at Stony Creek. So that's $200 there. So in total, he has allocated about 20,000 towards these various parks items of the 25,000 that's left here. But I think it's a good idea that maybe we should take a tour at one of our next meetings and Eric can come along with us and kind of point some of these things out that he's working on. And then you guys can give feedback too on if you feel like, well, I'd like to see this or that with the remaining dollars that we have. That'd be great. So no approval needed tonight. I just want to give you that update of kind of some of the smaller things that he's working on. Any questions?
No question.
Cool.
All right. Now correspondence. Any correspondence? No. Items for future consideration.
Do you want to just set up your next meeting since everybody's here in one spot? And grab our calendars and figure that out.
I'm pretty flexible. I don't think I'm traveling.
Yeah, maybe it can be evening, like we said, to tour the parks and do that too.
How often do we have our meetings?
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
You are in control.
Oh, I understand. Okay, but
I would say, I mean,
when do you think, when
Like-
does everybody think we should have our?
Like after July 4th would probably be good.
Yeah, like the third week in July before
Okay.
that Thursday again, like 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I want to make sure we have time to hit all the parks though. So, and I don't want to be hung up with you guys trying to get it for a 7 o'clock meeting too. But we can do either the 16th or the 15th. It's Tuesday or Wednesday.
that works for me because I'll have, I would,
Tuesday?
Tuesday the 15th would work for me.
Okay.
And then what time?
Just start at 6 again. That's
Start at 6, okay.
How
Dan,
much
I might
rubber do you
need
get
a-
here
we
after work?
Might need a hitch a ride.
Where are you gonna be? Hey, what? Oh, okay,
If Ray has my car.
I got you.
Yeah, I might need a hitch a
I
ride.
got you.
All right, we're good then.
All right, so yeah, that could be a field trip day, and then if we get to an early, then I can drag you guys back here to finish the stupid report.
So the 15th at 6 we're meeting here.
Yeah, we'll meet here and then we'll jump in probably a DPW truck and we can get around. That'd be great. Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No?
Motion carries, we're out of here.
Good job.
Sweet.
Get it, Natalie.
Nice job.
That was horrible.
It's all right.
All right, tell me about your little, what do you got going on? When is that? That thing, that fundraiser? It is this Saturday,
It's Saturday.
Semi-shop.
2 to 5.
2 to 5.
It's a charity event for the fire department.
Okay.
Randoing the association. And it's like a charity workout.